Good morning, this is Pastor Jerry, and we're here at the Teaching Gardens at the Children's Home in Kannapolis, North Carolina. And today, we just shot a lesson about how you take the cuttings that you've already prepared, and we grafted some cuttings from a Mr. Stripey tomato. These are Cherokee purple tomatoes. These are ones that we grafted, and you can see the different sizes of them. Some are about 3 weeks old. These down here are about 2 weeks old. And I'm going to graft off them. What we do is, by pruning the tomatoes, it's like everything else in the world, it seems, and everything in gardening. You'll have different opinions about different things. I used to not prune my tomatoes at all, and they became unmanageable. Also, when you prune the leaves, many times the common term for them are sunleaves. And then there's apical stems, and there's sometimes you call them suckers. We will cut the sunleaves off because at a certain point they don't do our plant any good. Also, when you prune it, you can get better airflow. That cuts down on disease. Nothing wants to be wet all the time. It's like human beings. If you shower at night, you want to dry off before you go to bed. One of my mentors taught me you don't want to go to bed with wet feet, and that's the way it is with plants. And so when we cut the sunleaves out, it allows more airflow. The plants can get a little more sunlight. Everything is vying for nutrients, for water, for space, that type of thing. And so here is a sunleaf that we will cut off. And on the bottom, it's taking up nutrients, and it's also hard to manage. When you also stake them up, and most tomatoes you're going to have to, at least the size that we get, so it allows us to get to the stem better and to tie them to our stakes. So what we do is we'll cut these that are unnecessary. I'm getting some of them. The ones inside don't do us any good also. And you can see just now, Champa has put up these pink strings to keep the strength going. This is what we refer to as a sunleaf. You don't see any kind of, these do not have the buds, the nodes that produce the fruit. And so after a time, you can identify them. I'll cut another leaf, and you'll see the kind of leaf that we will transplant. There we go. So I cut it. You always cut it, and I usually use hydrogen peroxide or alcohol every time when I make a cut. So here you can see the sunleaf, and here some people call them suckers. You'll see this is the leaf that you can see how it looks different. It looks different completely. That is a sunleaf. This will produce blossoms and fruit, and I have done sunleaves that you can grow a new plant from, but with this one, once again, we cut it on an angle, a bias, some people call it, and that, if you cut it off directly across horizontally, you don't get as much, it's just, I guess, math or geometry. You don't get as much space so that all these cells are exposed. And then what I do is, while I'm cutting them, I may take 30, 40, 50 cuttings. And this jump starts our process rather than go from seed. And then I need a little water here, so I'll put a little water in my brand new pot. This is pot from soil that we have developed. I don't want to say made, God made it, but we did it from red clay. You can see how dark it is. This is very rich. And we did this from, it's not quite composted because you can tell that used to be a twig. Here's some that is fully composted, because the rule of thumb for compost is you can't tell what it used to be. It is not dirt per se, but we have a little dirt in there. Soil and dirt are not synonymous. Soil is comprised, the way we do it, of dirt, of manure for the nutrients, for compost, for the tilth, and for all of the benefits that it brings, and in mulch. And it creates what's a soil system. So here's a sunleaf, and here is the apical stem that we will now, it will produce an exact genetic copy of these Cherokee purple tomatoes. So we'll go from that size, it jump starts it. We'll put this in the shade. Once again, I think it's on this lesson. If not, we'll put a baggie over it to retain the moisture. Plants have what we call respiration, and so they breathe. Actually, there's a cell on top of most leaves called a stomata, that's Greek for mouth, and it will open so that they can take in carbon dioxide and let out oxygen, but they also lose moisture through that. So sometimes, especially with squash, when it gets too hot, you'll see a squash leaf it may look like my hand, but then you'll see it kind of doing like that. It will wilt, and it loses what is called turgidity. That means that the stomata have closed and it's no longer stiff. Later that night, when it's not as hot, they'll open up, the stomata will open up, they'll begin to respirate again, and you'll see those leaves the next day. Chomp, if you'll get a shot of the squash leaves, and they'll look like that. So that's just one of those lessons. We're talking more about tomatoes than squash, but the reason you want to put that baggie over them, take them out of direct sunlight, is so that they don't lose too much moisture. Because now what's going on underground is that stem is going from stem cells differentiating again into root cells and a root system. So that's the way that we take a cutting for a graft. And I'll do another one here while you're watching. This one you'll see here, and there's one. You always cut close. There's a good, even better one. You can see, because you want about a 3 or 4 inch cutting. Cut it again on the bias. Now, when I'm going through and doing a lot of these, I'll just stick them in a cup of water. Doesn't have to be fancy, as you can see. Got just a little piece of hay there, and I'll drop it in the water just to keep it moistened so it doesn't lose too much moisture. Well, that's enough for right now. This is Pastor Jerry with Raised Ministries. It's in May. We'll get these loaded up soon with the help of our team. And I want to give a shout out again to Coach Thad Wells, who is just unbelievably valuable to Raised Ministries. We'll get these online, and once we get some training dates up there, we'd invite you to come if you're local in North Carolina, or if you'd like to make a road trip from wherever you are in the nation or in the world, come to Raised Ministries and train. We can teach you, facilitate things. We always teach. It takes at least a day to learn about the horticultural process, the raised bed process, and we have our own process here. But we also, we raise rabbits, we raise chickens, we raise worms, we raise honeybees. What else do we raise, Champo? We raise tilapia, raise them in my aquarium, and then I transplant them to barrels. We're looking to get sheep and goats and pigs. One of the things about our teachings is everything has a corollary to the gospel, to the Bible, because unashamedly, Raised is about teaching people the gospel by teaching them to raise their own sustainable organic food. You don't have to be a Christian to come here, but we invite you to come and train. You'll be treated well, you'll be loved, you'll be taught in Jesus' name. So this is Pastor Jerry with Raised Ministries saying goodbye, God bless. Please say a prayer for this ministry.